Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're skipping the basic stuff and unpacking a massive systemic shift in the tech landscape. We're starting with what sounds like a totally boring topic, spreadsheets and structured data, but it's actually just sparked an all-out industry war. Right off the bat, SAP just agreed to acquire a Freiburg-based startup called Prior Labs. And they're not just buying them. SAP is planning to pour over $1.18 billion into this over the next 4 years. The goal? To completely transform this startup into a globally leading frontier AI lab. So that immediately raises a pretty massive question, right? Why spend $1 billion on spreadsheet AI? I mean, we're all so used to this flashing AI that writes sonnets or generates these hyper-realistic videos. So what exactly makes AI that's designed specifically for structured business data worth over $1 billion to an ERP giant like SAP? Section 1. SAP's billion-dollar bet, the rise of TFMs. Let's look at exactly what Prior Labs is building to justify that massive price tag. Well, they're building what are called Tabular Foundation Models, or TFMs. Now, the absolutely crucial distinction here is that instead of language-based models that just predict the next word in a sentence, TFMs are completely specialized in predicting and analyzing structured, tabular business data. So SAP is making a highly calculated move here to build in-house AI capabilities focused entirely on the actual data that runs operations, supply chains, and finance. Section 2. The shift to vertical AI, moving beyond chatbots. To understand why this $1.18 billion move is really a canary in the coal mine for the wider tech sector, we got to zoom out a bit and look at this brand new gold rush. According to recent M&A data from McKinsey, the era of broad horizontal AI is basically shifting. Companies just don't want a standalone chatbot anymore. They want AI embedded directly into their specific industry workflows. We're seeing a massive surge in acquisitions targeting sectors like healthcare, manufacturing, financial services, and logistics. It's really all about accelerating AI adoption to generate those sticky, recurring revenue streams. And as you'll see here, the most successful programmatic acquirers are operating in this environment using a really strict M&A blueprint. The data actually shows these acquirers are 2 times more likely to be aligned on the industry trends they want to pursue and 1.6 times more likely to understand exactly what their competitive advantage is in those specific markets. They aren't just buying companies to, add up headcount. They're treating these deals as triggers for transformational change across their entire operation. Section 3. The ERP ecosystem consolidation, locking down the workflow. This laser focus on specific industry workflows brings us directly to the massive consolidation happening right now within the ERP space. The crucial point here is the sheer power of lock-in. This data aligns perfectly with IMAP's recent findings that technology M&A is being heavily driven by consolidation, specifically within enterprise resource planning ecosystems. Basically, acquirers are fiercely prioritizing shop floor management solutions and ERP integrators because they come with these deeply embedded client relationships. And, as you might guess, those relationships come with incredibly high switching costs that are very, very hard for competitors to disrupt. Section 4. The enterprise automation war, Silicon Valley versus enterprise veterans. Because look, SAP isn't making these billion-dollar moves in a vacuum. They're bracing for a massive territorial war against some of Silicon Valley's absolute biggest giants. Let's take a look at the battlefield here. On one side, you have OpenAI and Anthropic. They are aggressively expanding their general agentic AI into cross-functional enterprise automation platforms. Then, on the other side, you've got enterprise veterans like SAP acquiring native structured data AI to aggressively defend their deeply integrated turf. So it's basically horizontal expansion versus vertical entrenchment. And here is exactly why they're fighting so hard. The addressable market for enterprise process automation is roughly 10 times larger than the market for AI-assisted software development. That's a massive 10x multiplier. It totally explains why OpenAI recently went through major executive reshuffles, specifically to refocus their efforts around enterprise offerings ahead of a planned IPO. They want that enterprise workflow, for sure. Section 5. Massive capital realignments, funding the next frontier. Let's see how this builds into a systemic realignment of capital across the entire technology sector. Because, let's face it, to fight a war this big, you need staggering amounts of money. Just look at the sheer scale of the capital mobilization happening right now. We're talking about Alphabet executing an almost $85 billion equity raise. You've got SpaceX's $60 billion option on Cursor, a $35 billion private credit loan for Google TPUs, and a literal billion-dollar funding round for Cognition AI. Billions upon billions are moving to lock down compute power, specialized silicon, and workflow integration capabilities. The stakes have absolutely never been higher. And we're seeing the direct, rapid results of this capital flood right now. Take the AI chipmaker Cerebras, for example. Backed by major deals with OpenAI and AWS, they've just filed for an IPO, reporting $510 million in revenue with an incredible 76% year-over-year growth. The infrastructure to support this whole enterprise automation boom is scaling at breakneck speed. Section 6. The future of business data. Who owns the workflow? So, bringing this all back home, what should you actually take away from this billion-dollar spreadsheet acquisition by SAP? I think this really sums it up perfectly. The true winners of the AI revolution might not be the companies that build the best chatbots, but the ones that can master the boring, structured business data that runs the global economy. The next decade is going to be dominated by the companies that can seamlessly integrate AI into the complex, tabular logistics of everyday business operations. Which leaves us with this final critical thought. As this war escalates between horizontal AI giants expanding their reach and vertical software veterans locking down their ecosystems, you kind of have to ask yourself, who will you ultimately trust with your company's core operational data in the coming years? Is it going to be the ERP veterans or the new AI frontiersmen? Think about that as you navigate your own tech stacks. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the data.